Welcome, welcome everyone. Goddess of Radical Self-Love from Mecca. Make everyone count always. We are a support network for radical self-love and self-care with focused attention on care receivers and caregivers. Yes, when our community is most vulnerable, care receivers, and those who care for them, caregivers, feel supported and valued, we can all rest assured we are supported and valued as well. So today is Self-Transcendence Thursday. Yes, and typically we do go through our Mecca Maslow manifestation map or care plan, whichever you would like to call it, for your own use. That is found on our Patreon /Goddess of Radical Self-Love page. Yes, for $1, I believe. But today we are going to dive into a little more of exactly what self-transcendence is. So, and give me a little break. We're going to have, a summary on Maslow of self-transcendence. So, and we're going to start with meditations from conversations with God. Yes, to start us off. My daughter's dog, Laurel, keeps on getting into a lot of trouble today, so I do not understand. I think it's the Pisces issue. She doesn't know what to do, and neither do I. I can barely speak or think. Yes, I keep forgetting everything, and people are driving like crazy, and there's lots of drama, and I'm like, just remain in your state of calm. Yes, lots of breathing techniques. Yes. So, yes, meditations from Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. Come to me along the path of your heart, not through a journey of your mind. You will never find me in your mind. You know, actually, to be honest, this is like, I would say that's actually even a clear definition for self-transcendence as well. The mind is more ego, right? The heart transcends the ego. So, oh yes, I also wanted to say one really cool thing happened to me today. Well, a few did, because, it's life. So, of course, it's always cool stuff coming to you from the universe. But, yes, our wonderful earth angel, he presented me with some amazing cards. Yeah, wow, you did it, for finishing The Snake That Never Sheds, that you can also find on our Patreon. My memoir about how I came to be, well, I wouldn't say that. It's pre-stages of becoming the goddess of radical self-love, I guess. What I went through in my journey to actually be able to speak on the duality and the lessons learned, and really more about transcending the suffering or the experiences that were brought to my early childhood and early adulthood. So, yeah, it's really, when he gave it to me, I started crying. Now I feel like I am already again. So, if you would like a copy, just go on the Patreon /Goddess of Radical Self-Love for The Snake That Never Sheds, She Will Be Heard. I do want to say, even when I talked to our Earth Angel today about it, you know, and he was expressing how many people he's sharing it with so that we can find the right agent and publisher. I said, you know, there is some hesitation, not hesitation, but, you know, that thing in the back of my mind that says, well, I hope people don't change the way they look at me. You know, like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. And, you know, and he's like, well, it might change the way people look at you because, you know, they'll think you're pretty amazing. Like, sometimes it's scary to tell our story, right? Because we don't want people to look at us in a certain fashion. But that even was built into our programming, so maybe that we wouldn't speak about it, right? Yeah, so it's kind of been a heavy week ever since I finished it. But I understand its purpose is for others to understand that self-transcendence or transcendence of experiences is possible, and you are never your story. Like, this isn't me. I'm obviously a human being, a being within this shell, this, you know, human skin. Yeah, witnessing. I was a witness, so, to that story. And today's story, an observer, right? So, I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. So, let's begin with our lesson. Yes. The summary of Maslow on self-transcendence, and I will leave the link in the bottom to this article because it's really good. And we start with a quote from Abraham Maslow. It is quite true that we live by bread alone when there is no bread. But what happens to our desires when there is plenty of bread, and when our bellies are chronically filled? The hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow, 1908 to 1970, was an American psychologist best known for creating a theory of psychological health known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Textbooks usually portray Maslow's hierarchy in the shape of a pyramid with our most basic needs at the bottom and the need for self-actualization at the top. Note how the iconic pyramid ignores self-transcendence. The basic idea of the image is that survival demands food, water, safety, shelter, etc. Then to continue to develop, you need your psychological needs for belonging and love met by friends and family, as well as a sense of self-esteem that comes with some competence and success. If you have had these needs fulfilled, then you can explore the cognitive level of ideas, the aesthetic level of beauty, and as a result, you may experience the self-actualization that accompanies achieving your full potential. Note that the higher needs don't appear until lower needs are satisfied, which is what we work on the grid, right? So if you are hungry and cold, you can't worry much about self-esteem, art, or mathematics. Note also the different levels correspond roughly to different stages of life. The needs of the bottom of the pyramid are predominant in infancy and early childhood. The needs for belonging and self-esteem predominant in later childhood and early adulthood, and the desire for self-actualization emerges with mature adulthood. However, to be quite honest, even though that would be ideal, lots of people struggle with even their physiological needs and their safety and security for sure. So we want to make sure that all those needs are satisfied together and work on what would be, the best outcome of all of those individually, so we can check them off of the grid and move on up. So that's what we do on the Mecca Maslow manifestation map or care plan. Self-transcendence. What is less well known is that Maslow amended his model near the end of his life and saw the conventional portrayal of his hierarchy is incomplete. In his later thinking, he argued that there is a higher level of development, what he called self-transcendence. We achieve this level by focusing on things beyond the self like altruism, spiritual awakening, liberation from egocentricity, and the unity of being. Here's how he put it. Transcendence refers to the very highest and most inclusive of all holistic levels of human consciousness. Behaving and relating as ends rather than means, to oneself, to significant others, to human beings in general, to other species, to nature, and to the cosmos. Notice that placing self-transcendence above self-actualization results in a radically different model. While self-actualization refers to fulfilling your own potential, self-transcendence refers literally to transcending the self. And if successful, self-transcenders often have what Maslow calls peak experiences, in which they transcend the individual ego. In such mystical, aesthetic, or emotional states, one feels intense joy, peace, well-being, and awareness of ultimate truth and the unity of all things. Maslow also believed that such states aren't always transitory. Some people might be able to readily access them. This leads him to define another term, plateau experience. These are more lasting, serene cognitive states as opposed to peak experiences, which tend to be mostly emotional and temporary. Moreover, in plateau experiences, one feels not only ecstasy, but the sadness that comes with realizing that others don't have such experiences. While Maslow believed that self-actualized, mature people are those most likely to have these self-transcendent experiences, he also felt that everyone was potentially capable of having them. And so am I. Which is why, if you watched my video yesterday, you would understand why at one point I cried because I didn't understand. How somebody could want to inflict pain on another and enjoy that, I guess. Given that Maslow's humanistic psychology emphasized self-actualization and what is right with people, it isn't surprising that his later transpersonal psychology explored extreme wellness or optimal well-being. This took the form of interest in persons who have expanded their normal sense of identity to experience the transpersonal or the underlying unity of all reality. Thus, the connection between transpersonal psychology and the mystical and meditative traditions of many of the world's religions. Let me conclude by looking at two eloquent statements contrasting self-actualization and self-transcendence. The first is from Marco Coloto Rivera's excellent summary of the Maslow's later thought in Rediscovering the Later Version of Maslow's Hierarchy Needs of Self-Transcendence and Opportunities for Theory, Research, and Unification. I have a copy of that too. It's really amazing. So we'll go over some of that, not the entire thing because it's really long. I'll just take some notes on it for you guys. At the level of self-actualization, the individual works to actualize the individual's own potential, whereas at the level of transcendence, the individual's own needs are put aside to a great extent in favor of service to others. The second is from Viktor Frankl, Summary of Man's Search for Meaning, and Summary of Frankl on Tragic Optimism, which is amazing, to be honest. Yeah, The Man's Search for Meaning is one of the most profound books. Frankl writes, the real aim of human existence cannot be found in what is called self-actualization. Human existence is essentially self-transcendence rather than self-actualization. Self-actualization is not a possible aim at all, for the simple reason that the more a person would strive for it, the more they would miss it. For only to the extent to which people commit themselves to the fulfillment of their life's meaning, to this extent they also actualize themselves. In other words, self-actualization cannot be attained if it is made an end in itself, but only as a side effect of self-transcendence. So when we do practice self-actualization on Freaky Friday, you know, my emphasis is on being, you know, using your creative outlets, because to me, your creative outlets or outputs are really from source, and your creators, you're self-transcending the ego in a way by creating for others or just what isn't even, you know, right now available to the outside world or yourself. So it's a little bit of God playing through you, in my view. So self-actualization, being your full authentic self, is very, you know, I guess minus the personality almost. I mean, you're still using your personality, I guess, in a way where your creative output comes through or is placed by what you believe is that best source. But we are constantly creating if you're conscious of what you're doing. So what you wear, how you do your hair, the work you do and how you do it. Really putting your heart into it again, you know, where I guess it's working with the mind, but it's the heart is really the one who's the master, right? So, yeah. Self-Transcendence Thursday. Reaching up to understand that we are all one, and how you are integral to that oneness, how you are observing and interplaying with the world around you, how you're speaking to and with the universe and source at all times. So again, like I've said, be careful what you say. Yeah. Be careful of the I am. So, yes. I love you all. I am doing a meditation for tomorrow right after this. Well, I have a meeting to go to first, but so I won't be doing one right after this right now. Yes. I did a couple of them yesterday and it got to be a much. So, I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you on Freaky Friday. Have a beautiful evening. I love you so much. Thank you for all your likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions. For up-to-date videos, just click the bell. Yes, and donations as well. Thank you so much. Full gratitude. Oneness. Mwah.